Chapter 46. A few days later, I was at my locker before school started. Kevin appeared and smiled at me. He talked to me about this and that. I gave him my attention, but not many words. Larry, Curly, and Mo appeared beside us. "Who are you?" Curly demanded of him. "Kevin Hines. I'm her friend." Kevin replied back in a way that conveyed that he'd gotten what they wanted and that he was damn proud of it. He hooked his arm around me and put his head on my shoulder and smiled at them. My initial reaction was to jerk away from him, but it really served the haters right by him doing that, and I smiled a satisfied smile at them with a little bit of evil showing through. "Watch he doesn't punch you or do something worse when you least expect it," Mo remarked as I eased away from Kevin. "She's the biggest bully around here. At night, the boogeyman looks under his bed to make sure she isn't there. She's that evil. Don't say I didn't warn you." With that, the three of them walked away. I liked his remark about the boogeyman. I'd almost laughed. "I don't think you'd do that to me. Why do they hate you so much?" Kevin remarked as we watched their backs retreat into homeroom. "It all started with them saying shit and throwing rocks at me at a picnic when I was 5 years old. They're the ones that named me Christmas Tree. That's how they welcomed me to South Carolina. It's never gotten any better." "Aw, I'd never treat you that way," he said as he snuggled up against me again. I wanted to jerk him off me, but all I did was look over at his head on my shoulder and roll my eyes, wondering what I'd gotten into. It made me wonder if I was losing my reputation as a badass. By the end of the day, they threatened to kick Kevin's ass. He told me about it as we exited school at the end of the day. "Are you scared?" I asked. They were 2 years older than us, but in the same grade because they'd failed 2 years and were held back. I thought that funny in itself. But with them being 2 years older, they also had more muscle and height on us. I wasn't so sure that I could take all three of them at once if I were to fight them. He shook his head. "Nah, they're just bluffing because they know you'd kick their asses. You do know why they pick on you so much, don't you?" I jerked my head to look at him. "They pick on me because they're assholes through and through," I informed him. I couldn't believe that point wasn't obvious. "I guess they're assholes too, but mostly they like you, and it burns their asses that you reject them every time they try to talk to you. Word has it around school that you're the hottest and most badass girl in the school, and they can't get you to like them." That hit me funny that they liked me and that I always rejected them. I mean, I already knew I was hot and badass. I laughed and laughed. "I'm glad you think that's so funny," he said after I'd finally stopped laughing. "Now that you know that, are you going to stop fighting with them?" "Oh, hell no," I smiled. "What you just said is just going to make my picking on them and fighting with them all that much sweeter." "I think you should start being nicer to people," he told me as he shifted his books in his arms to avoid looking at me. "Don't be silly." He gave me a wary look. "You know, in the short time I've known you, I already know that you're the prettiest girl in school, although you don't give a rat's ass about it. You don't even wear makeup or fix your hair, and you're still gorgeous. You make all the girls jealous and all the guys wild. I also know that you're a bully, and if you didn't like me, I'd be so scared of you, I'd have to move to another city. And I know that you're the best pianist I've ever heard. Oh, and you're conceited about that. You're conceited about a lot of things," he said. I ignored his remark about my piano playing. The only reason he didn't know I was a badass guitarist is because Daddy didn't like me showing off. "I'm super bad," I informed him. "I don't even have to beat up the guys anymore. I give them the look and they scurry away." He gave me a look that conveyed that he didn't know if I was serious or kidding. The reason that the guys no longer fight you is because we're in high school. If they were to fight you and get their asses kicked, then they'd never live it down. Plus they'd be suspended and the school might not let them graduate. Some of them realize that they should have grown up by now, and if they fight you, then it gives them a bad name for beating up on a girl. Nobody needs that label. I narrowed my eyes at him. "And which one are you? You know I could kick your ass, right?" "Neither. I don't punch people, and besides, we're friends." I stood staring at him. Nobody had ever questioned my badness before. Where was the respect? Friends don't punch each other, he huffed. I already know you can kick my ass, but I would never hit a girl. Come on, put your guard down, huh? He put his hand on my shoulder then. I need to know that I'm still badass, I replied as I glanced at his hand on my shoulder. Believe me when I tell you that you'll always be badass. I smiled at that. Oh yeah. But if you want to graduate high school, you have to stop fighting, he added, ruining the moment. I growled in disgust. But he just said to stop fighting in school. I could fight any other time. Now he was talking about how some girls could be badass and still get along with people. I tuned him out then. I jerked slightly as he suddenly touched my face. What are you doing? I asked in irritation as I batted his hand away. He had just been a little too personal with me the entire day, touching my arm, laying his head on my shoulder, touching my face, questioning my badness. I just told you how smooth your face is while mine is broken out, but you weren't even listening, were you? I heard some of what you said, I replied. I hadn't even noticed he had acne. I only noticed his sandy hair and hazel eyes. He sighed, knowing that I was lying. I wish I knew how to get rid of this acne. I hate looking like this. I observed his face, pretending to examine the problem. I knew I could fix it. A lot of our classmates had acne. Not me, of course. It's because of the soap I use, I lied. I'll bring a bar of it for you tomorrow. At home, I went into the closet and got out a bar of Irish Spring. It smelled good. I left it in its little box. I imagined Kevin using the soap and his acne going away. The next day I gave it to him. He was skeptical, but he accepted it. Belief was the main reason that things went the way they did. Kevin and I hung out at school, and although he sometimes seemed to hang on every word I said, I didn't have any romantic feelings for him. He could ride the motorcycle now, but we weren't up to the jumping stage yet. He was good at riding a horse now, too, so we had even more things to do together. He pretty much became one of the family. He even hung around and did chores with Daddy when I was off doing some other chores. He and Daddy had deep conversations even when I wasn't right there with him, and I knew Daddy adored him. Daddy said that I acted normal around Kevin. He said if I could do that around everyone else, I'd have a load of friends. We had a field that Daddy cut for hay. Kevin was impressed that I'd be driving the huge Massey Ferguson tractor with a 15-foot bush hog on it, so he came over and rode with me. It could be a mind-numbing work, just riding around a field the size of a couple football fields until all the grass was cut. I gave him a shot at driving the tractor, and I rode with him. He'd had such a sheltered life that I felt he needed all this experience to make him more of a man. He liked all the attention, and he didn't mind me teaching him all the things I knew how to do on the ranch. When we were through, he helped brush the cut grass off the bush hog and to grease it down so it wouldn't rust, something Daddy had taught me. We talked and got to be better friends with all the time we spent together. It was rather a shock to me when I realized that he liked me for who I was and that he wanted to reciprocate that bond. In my entire life, I had never had a real friend besides Stupid Boy. He liked to lay his head on my shoulder or lean against me at times when we were sitting next to each other. It reminded me of the first graders whom I hadn't seen in forever. He sometimes put his arm around me. I found that I didn't mind him doing any of these things as long as it was only for a minute or two. I'd already noticed that he'd made friends a lot easier than I ever could. Sometimes it made me angry that I couldn't be like him. I was never mean to him, though. He was always happy to spend time with me. I knew he defended me to other kids when I wasn't around. People started calling him my bitch. I had a hard time ignoring that teasing for Kevin's sake, but he just rolled with it. Sometimes I didn't understand him at all. Yellow had always ridden with me since the tractor had really wide fenders. Sometimes he sat by my feet and watched the land go by. Lately, all he could take of it was like an hour or so. Then I'd have to stop and let him off. He'd sit under a shade tree and watch me until I was finished. Kevin told me that when Daddy had let him bush hog the field when I was over Bob and Nancy's house helping them with something, that Yellow had ridden with him on the tractor too. I asked Yellow about it, and he said he'd been giving Kevin confidence. That seemed like a good answer to me. He said that it was getting harder to ride on the tractor because his bones hurt now. Somehow my dog had gotten older and I hadn't noticed. Besides helping me with chores, Kevin and I also had fun times. We'd gone fishing before, and at times had ridden four-wheelers on our land or just hiked through the woods. I could be funny when I wanted to, and it made me want to be funnier when Kevin thought I was hilarious. We sometimes practiced our guitars together, and he had even got me to belt out an Aerosmith tune. I was surprised when he honestly thought that I could be a frontman of a band. He said that my voice was strong and amazing to listen to. If anyone else had told me that, I wouldn't have believed him, but I knew Kevin wouldn't lie to me. In turn, I taught him some guitar techniques to help him play better. I was pleased that he'd gotten better at guitar since we first started hanging out together. He was still just an okay guitarist, and I wondered about that. I was thinking that he might have reached his learning limit. He wasn't conceited about playing guitar like I was. Sometimes I wondered if he really enjoyed it at all. I tried teaching him to play the piano, but he wasn't interested. I tried to teach him the violin and the banjo too, with no luck. Daddy took every opportunity to teach him manly things. He really seems to like working on machinery as you do, he told me one day. He's such a sheltered kid. Whenever you can, teach him new things and get his confidence up. He went on to tell me how Kevin had helped him work on the tractor while I had been in detention for a fight I'd gotten into at school. I've been trying to, Dad, I replied. It feels like he's 8 years old sometimes for how little he knows about everyday stuff and life itself. Yeah, his parents failed him in that respect. His dad should have been teaching him about life all along, Daddy agreed. I wondered about Kevin's life. For the most part, he was happy-go-lucky, but sometimes he was downright nervous and jumpy. Something seemed to be going on at home that he didn't want to talk about. I had yet to meet either of his parents. If Daddy picked him up or dropped him off, it was usually at the 7-Eleven that he said was close to his house. I was really happy when I found out that he didn't mind shopping. By the time that I was 7, my dad had begun leaving me at home when he went shopping because he was tired of dealing with me on those trips. When it came time for shopping for back-to-school clothes, he sometimes pawned me off with Nancy. He knew I wouldn't give her half the trouble I gave him. But it was time for clothes shopping again, and I dreaded it. Kevin said he'd go shopping with me. His friend will drive, I informed Daddy. I knew Kevin could talk David into driving us around. I did? Kevin said under his breath to me. I gave him the look. That's a big relief, Daddy replied as he rubbed his eyes. He'd been working on the tractor, and I knew he was tired. I figured he was also dreading me flipping out and being an ass if we went shopping. He gave me some money, then took out another 20 and gave it to Kevin. Buy yourself a shirt or jeans, no junk, okay? Kevin thanked him. Daddy went to the barn. Kevin called David to see if he'd take us shopping. About 30 minutes later, he picked us up. I was giving him $20 of my own money to take us shopping. He parked in front of the Goodwill store. I scrunched my face up at him. What the fuck? I asked. What the fuck is that you're going to find a lot of good clothes for next to nothing in here, he replied. I tried to get Kevin to just go in and buy some clothes for me, but David made me go in with them. Then they aggravated me and made me look at clothes and try them on. I had to admit that there were surprisingly a lot of cool clothes in my size, but it wasn't at all like I planned. David was especially aggravating. Not only did he want me to try on the clothes, but he also wanted me to step out of the dressing room so they could evaluate what each item looked like with me wearing it. They ignored my whining and laughed at me. Had I been left to myself, I would have just picked out this, that, and the other, then paid for it and gone home, never have tried on one article of clothing. They also thought it funny to tell me how hot I looked in each article of clothing. I only wanted to be told how smart I was, not how hot I was. I ended up with 4 pairs of jeans, 4 shirts, and a cute jacket. Between the 20 I'd given Kevin and what I'd just bought, I'd spent $60 of the 100 my dad had given me. David had spent $10 on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. Kevin had gotten 3 pairs of jeans and 3 shirts. It came to $21, which I gave him an extra dollar of mine to cover it. David drove us to the mall to window shop. He and Kevin really teased me that Daddy had instructed me to buy a package of panties. They both especially wanted to help me pick them out, so they walked into the department store with me. Kevin liked the solid colored ones and David liked the flowered ones. I shook my head at the flowered ones. They teased me that I'd have to model them. Yeah, right. I grabbed a package of panties, picked out 2 t-shirts, then paid for a $1 burger for each of us from Hardee's. David had a camera in his car and he wanted to take a picture of me holding up my new panties. That wasn't happening, but I finally relented holding up a t-shirt and he took my picture by his car. He had a passerby take a picture of the 3 of us. He'll want to take 100 pictures of you and everything else, Kevin confided to me as David chattered with the passerby about his camera. Why? I asked. That seemed weird. He shrugged his shoulders. He likes to take pictures. I don't know why. I suppose that explained it. Even my dad was pleased by what the guys had picked out for me. He was amazed at all the clothes we'd gotten. David proudly told him that he'd taken us to the Goodwill store. Daddy was pleased with his money sense. I decided then that they were going to do my shopping for me from now on. They just weren't aware of that fact yet. Kevin was in conversation about the latest movies. Dad, can I go to the movies with them? I asked. I figured if he was pleased by the clothes purchases that he'd surely let me go. And I suppose you need money to go? He replied as he looked us over. Yeah, that goes without saying. Are y'all going to behave? No drinking, no funny stuff, he asked us. He especially eyed David, who was the oldest. Yes, sir. No drinking or funny stuff, David replied, straightening up almost like a soldier. I was surprised when my dad paid for the 3 of us to go rather than just me. They thought my dad was super cool. I supposed he was. I got to stop at my house first, David informed us as he pulled out of the driveway. I didn't much care. I didn't get out that much, especially with other kids, and I was okay with anything they did, even if it did end up with them drinking and doing funny stuff. It felt good to finally fit in somewhere, even if it ended up only being for this certain day. I decided that I was going to cherish days like this. Who knew if there'd be another? I felt a twinge of anger that some people always had this togetherness, this connection. David invited us in. The TV was blasting as we walked into the living room. Oh my God, I knew one day you'd change your mind, a voice that I knew exclaimed loudly. I grimaced before my eyes focused on the face that voice belonged to. I turned to David. Alan is your brother? I remarked in surprise. I'd never paid attention that they had the same last name. Yeah, welcome to my private hell, he huffed. I have an older brother too, but he's okay. Oh, baby, I want to get with you and take your picture, Alan said as he approached me and put his hand on my waist. I smacked him away from me. Get away from me, you perv, and don't be touching me. Kevin was laughing at him. What are you laughing about, jerk? Bet she ain't doing you, Alan smarted off. I'm out of here. I'll wait in the car, I remarked. I always felt uncomfortable when kids talk like that. I walked back out the door with Alan begging me to come back. Kevin and David got in the car a few minutes later. Your brother's a jerk, Kevin remarked. Yeah, sorry. I didn't know he'd be home. I'd never purposely subject you to him, he replied as he backed the car out of the driveway. Your parents adopted him, didn't they? I asked. He and Alan were so different. I couldn't imagine that they were blood related. David was tall, brown-haired, and brown-eyed. Alan was a lot smaller, blonde-haired and blue-eyed, but then I had to consider that he was younger than Kevin and I by 2 years. I had a distinct feeling that Alan was only a half-brother to David, but that might be a secret that even David, and apparently his dad, didn't know. They burst out laughing. I realized then that David must be the black sheep of his family and that he felt bonded to me now that I'd shot his brother down. I was okay with that. Any reason they liked me was fine with me, just so long as they liked me.